Hello.
How are you?
I am delightful. How are you?
I'm okay. How's your family?
Well, they are actually taking advantage of this gorgeous fall day to drive down to Nashville, Indiana to visit my wife's father.
Well, it's too bad you're not with them. You're missing it. They aren't.
I know. They always do this to me.
Well, we haven't been anywhere, my husband. It's just the two of us. Now, our grandchildren are there. And of course, we have not been to see them. We use the Zoom and
Yeah.
Duo and everyone else. I don't know what I'm doing half of the time. I told Nikki there, I said, girl, do I know how to do this? I'm on so many platforms. Do you realize how many there are? There are many, many.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
you made it.
I did it.
we had to cancel the last meeting because the platform the state wanted us to use wasn't working. So you were right. I mean, there are like 15 different platforms, and it's
Well, it's interesting that the state has elected to use 3 or 4, all the various departments, as opposed to the state saying this is it. But
well,
so
I think
is our local citizens here with the mayoral administration. There are several there instead of just with one.
right.
Now, that does not include all the other small groups you belong to that's fundraising with Zoom and everyone else. So
Right.
it's interesting.
I estimate that I have probably since March been on 250 Zoom, WebEx, Teams calls.
Google,
Google
Google
Meet.
me, it goes on and on.
It does. It's just crazy. And the thing is that every time I switch platforms, it screws up my audio settings.
Mm-hmm. I know. But it's a wonderful thing. But, as an educator, I am concerned just a little bit about academic gains for children.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can somehow wrap that in what's happening in charter, I would imagine how many different platforms in charter schools, you know?
Yeah. And it's a combination of platforms plus delivery of instruction through that platform, right? A platform is just, Zoom is just a tool.
Right.
It's what you do with it, right? That actually matters. And so I know a lot of schools are using Google Classroom,
Yes.
but again, Google Classroom is a tool. It's like
Right.
Excel. What are you doing with Google Classroom? How are you using it to instruct kids? And that's the difference, right? That's the difficulty.
Well, and that's kind of what I worry about. Are we going to make any academic gains, not only in charter, all over? I mean, I hear horror stories just like you do.
No, I think we're gonna effectively lose, I don't know, Bridget, what do you think? 6 months of instruction, more?
I personally think more. Leslie, you
More?
can speak to this more than, yeah, I think more.
What do you think, Leslie?
Could you ask that question again? I was going through emails.
No, we were just talking about how we think the effect that basically the end of last school year and this school year is having on learning, and how much learning we're actually is going to be lost. The kids, and we were speculating whether it was 6 months, a year. I mean, regardless, you hear stories, as Dr. Calvin was saying, across the entire state. It's not just charter schools, it's public school, it's traditional public schools. IPS just, went from virtual to I guess they're rolling out their in-person instruction. I'm not even sure the upper level grades are in school yet. I mean,
They're not.
Yeah, it's
not.
My oldest starts Monday. She's in, and then there's a later date, I think in 2 more weeks for the older grades.
Isn't that crazy? It's October.
I know.
Right. And then we saw another record day of COVID cases in Indiana
That's
today.
right.
So.
That's right.
I know, the surge. And the irony is that, our state health commissioner got COVID along with her family.
Well, to all the mothers out there, you can tell I'm an old time out of my zone. I say to children, if you don't know what to do, go get those flashcards. They're called multiplications, subtractions, additions. Pull those out, and I don't care what anyone else is saying, because I'm the age that I am, and I'm still multiplying in my head and adding and subtractions. I'm still using that.
I'll tell you, we bought Barakat, our 8-year-old, these math dice.
Okay.
That allow you to do multiplication and division and subtraction by rolling dice and then, performing whatever operation on the dice. He loves them. It's like the only way.
Well, you can't beat it. I'm just telling you.
It makes it a game for him.
I know people that have college
homework.
I know people have college degrees, never had algebra. So those multiplications, I've used all of my life and still using them.
Well, they also have calculators.
No, I didn't have a calculator in my head.
Oh, your head's a calculator.
Yep. Or give me a pencil and paper and I can divide anything you want. I know it's antiquated, but I get more questions from parents, and I always walk away from the conversation saying that, go pull out that it's not much to do at home. We can sit around the dining room table and subtract, add, and multiply. Get the 2s, 3s, 4s. Remember, we went all the way to the 12s. So.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm not so. I was in elementary school in the 70s, so I remember.
Yep.
Way before new math.
Way before new math. And ironically, you were still using it. We can beat the cash registers and the kids on the cash register. I can still beat them at McDonald's of subtraction and subtracting my dollars and my money. I don't care what that cash register is saying.
That's funny.
Because if they miss a fish fillet for, I can't think of a daily double, I've already multiplied it for them.
So we have, it looks like 4 board members on.
Oh, good.
So we need at least one more. You're muted, Nikki.
Jill should be joining as well for sure. So it may just be a minute or so.
And then Marianne, is she the other?
Correct.
Okay. So Leslie, congratulations on taking some time off to go back to academia. You're muted.
You're muted. You're muted, Leslie. I want to know what happened.
Since our last meeting, my whole world went up, just completely changed. Just talked to different.
That's good.
And one of my friends encouraged me to reach out to a professor at Ohio State, talk to him. Well, I reached out, email, had an interview within 2 days, and got accepted on the spot. So I just left home out, stepped out on faith, and I was looking at probably like $50,000 to go in debt off of just 1 year. But a girl ended up deciding she wasn't coming back this school year, and they gave me a GTA position, so school paid for it, but it is no joke.
That's great.
But I'm enjoying it. So I'm learning.
That's wonderful. Congratulations. Yoo-hoo.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you.
That's great.
You know your multiplication tables, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Shocking, girl.
So should we
Calculate that. It'll be okay.
So
yeah.
Kim, you want to wait a second for Jill? I think then that would be everybody.
Okay.
So we'll give them, I mean, it's 3:03, a couple more minutes. Well, I mean, it's up to you, obviously, but I know she was planning on attending. Who is ICSB conference room? Nikki, you're muted. Nikki, you're muted. You're still
That's
muted.
her. She's waving her hand. Let's see.
I have our conference room board going. Just I was running it so that way, kind of just keeping track. So it's kind of like a dummy account, but it's our the smart board in our conference room.
Oh yeah, okay.
Well, Nikki, on mine, it says open system preferences. Do I push that blue button or anything? I don't do anything with that?
You shouldn't need to, no.
Okay.
There's Andrew.
I'm going to have surgery on my eyes, so I'm up on the computer refreshing the names and getting my thoughts together. And I need to see sometimes, so that's the reason I'm looking so strange.
Well, good luck with your surgery.
I'm of that age. Dr. Bullock, how are you? Dr. Bullock? I can't hear you.
Are you? Oh, she's not muted either. You may need to mess with your audio settings, Dr. Bullock.
And
Mr. Bentley, can you hear me?
I can
How
hear
are
you.
you?
Tanya.
Oh, yes,
I was
hi.
going to you next.
Yes, hi. How are
You're
you?
right next door. I wanted to make sure I said hello, and I've said hello to Mary Ann, and there's Bridget.
Yes.
Okay, I have everyone, and I'm even there. Kim, how are you?
Good to see you. And Dr. Bullock, it looks like maybe you have a headphone set on.
Have what?
Well, maybe not.
Yeah,
You tell her she doesn't know what she's doing on that thing.
like I said, every time you use a new one, it
Right.
with your audio settings.
It's mine says Nicole was speaking, but Nicole, I can't hear you.
Well, here's the thing. I am also Nicole.
Oh, okay, okay.
For some odd reason, I had to
You
sign in
are.
as Nicole to run a meeting, and it never changed. So there are two Nicoles.
Is Andrew on? Who's on? Andrea? That's Andrew.
Andrew. Hey, Janet, are you?
I'm here.
Okay, great.
I don't have my camera on.
That's fine. Dr. Bullock, have you figured out your audio yet?
She's working.
Do you need to know how to go to your audio settings, Dr. Bullock?
Yeah, I can. She can call in WebEx in a pinch, can't she?
Correct.
Yeah, she should probably just do that.
Dr. Bullock, can you hear us? Oh, there she goes. Well, Kim, once we get her on, maybe we should get started. Almost 3:10.
Didn't want to have her telephone?
Yeah, when she comes back, I'll tell her to maybe call in.
Yeah.
Tanya, do you have it?
Yeah, Tanya can speak.
Yes, and I'm sending her a message now to let her know we can't hear. I'm gonna ask her to call.
Okay.
She should be able just to go to those right next, like to the red X down at the bottom, and those more options. And it should let her know exactly what she's using. And it has a button just to switch audio or call in.
Nikki, are you going to use the screen and put anything on the screen for us, like the agenda or anything, or we need to pull our packets?
Chair Preston, how would you like? I'm more than happy to. You just let me know how you would like me to.
Yeah, I mean, our short.
Okay.
So we probably don't need that, but I think it'd be great, Nikki, if when Dr. Bullock is talking, if we could share the slides.
Sure thing.
Dr. Bullock, can you hear us? Can you try calling in? I refuse to let a technological glitch cancel this meeting as well.
Leslie, I'm going to keep up with you.
I would appreciate it too, Dr. Calvin.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's gonna call in. She's getting dialed in.
Okay, great.
Give her the number, make it go faster. Let's see. 844 621 3956. The access code. 6 26 23.
Kim, if you want to, we're getting feedback.
Can you hear me?
Dr. Bullock, we can hear you, but you may want to.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
great.
Hooray!
Okay.
I think we could call the meeting to order then. All right. Officially calling our October 16th meeting to order. Thanks so much, everybody, for working through the technical issues to make this happen. First order of business is to approve our board minutes from our June meeting. If anyone has any questions or concerns, please raise those now. Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Can we do just consensus or do we need to have the approval?
Has to be roll call.
Has to be roll call, okay. I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
And I second it.
Great. So then we'll take a roll call vote.
Yes.
Dylan,
Yes.
Ruger, one more time. I think that was a yes.
That's a yes, thanks.
Yep. Rummel
Yes.
and Preston's a yes. So approved. So then we can move on to our primary order of business, the consideration of location change for Indy STEAM meet.
So,
James?
yeah, so I'm going to give a little background and then turn it over to Dr. Bullock. Yeah, I explained, as I explained in the memo, the reason we're having this special meeting is really because of a disconnect between our application process and Enroll Indy for our Indianapolis schools. Because Enroll Indy's enrollment window opens in October, well, actually like October 31st, November 1st, and our application cycle isn't until December, we are actually doing schools that want to locate in Indianapolis a disservice by preventing them from participating in Enroll Indy for a month and a half, or whenever our December meeting is. So we are actually, and this is a larger discussion, we're going to move our fall application cycle earlier, I think by a month or two, just to make sure that we get a decision to schools maybe by the end of October, which will take care of that problem. But in this case, Indy's team kind of got caught between a rock and a hard place because they weren't scheduled to come on until December. So that's why we're having this special meeting. So their request is actually to amend their charter, which was approved December 13th, 2019 by this board, to move their location, which was originally the Riverside 16 Tech neighborhood, to 4020 Sherman, which is on the east side. It's the former location of Tinley Renaissance Academy. We staff, after reviewing the request, reviewing the budget, and doing our typical due diligence, are recommending that the board approve this. Our rationale is laid out in the memo. We formally, I don't think I've ever put this down in writing before, but when analyzing these kinds of requests, we look at really three things. One, is it reasonable given the circumstances, or is it, because when you put something in your charter, it is assumed that that is what you mean. You've done your due diligence on that spot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is the facility available at a cost that fits within a proposed budget, and is there need demand for the school at the new location? So in some ways, it's the same kind of a facility location analysis that we do for a charter application. We think that all three factors have been met. You obviously can read why 1 and 2 have been met. The third factor is the hardest and the one we struggled with the most, the need demand. And this was a subject of much discussion amongst myself and staff. I had conversations with the Enroll Indy staff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the conclusion that we drew is that while we do have access to more data, it's really still at this stage a kind of a blunt instrument, because it tells you what capacity. So capacity for charter schools is sort of it's an arbitrary function. I mean, it's an arbitrary number, right? So when you're, IPS, and I don't know if other school districts do this. I mean, they literally divide square footage by, they have some formula and they come up with their capacity. And so I would call that like legal capacity. And I think it's based on health and safety standards, et cetera, et cetera. Charter schools can do the same thing, but because a lot of them are located in buildings where there's far more space than they have kids, it's not a really practical means of determining capacity. So capacity for charter schools generally boils down to, what their program, how many kids they can serve with fidelity with their proposed program in terms of number of staff and supplies and resources and things like that. So when you look at like an Enroll Indy report where you say, well, here's the count and here's capacity. Well, I mean, what does capacity mean? That's the school's capacity. They're telling you what it is, but is it, we don't have the details. And so as we went through this process, we've spent more and more time discussing how relevant that, for example, that table is. Just because it says in grade 2 that there are 13 empty seats, what does that mean? Does that, is there a school that maybe lost 30 kids or something and didn't change their capacity? How does that all factor in? And so we went beyond that. We definitely took it under consideration, But we went beyond it because the other thing that table does is it treats every single school as if it is the same, right? Capacity, student count. It does not take into account programming. It doesn't take into account other factors that may make a school more desirable or more needed in an area. And you can read in IndySteam's application change, their sort of outreach and things like that with regards to need and demand. But and we obviously took that into account as well. But I think, you know, one of the primary things that we're looking at is that this is a STEAM specific school. There are no STEAM specific elementary schools located in that area. There are schools that list themselves as STEAM or STEM on Enroll Indy, but aren't actually built around STEAM or STEM. The nearest really established STEM school is IMSA, which is located at 75th and Keystone, which is not anywhere near the neighborhood that we're talking about. It's about 4 miles away, and regardless, it's nearly at capacity. And in actuality, I think they pull some fairly significant number of kids from the 4020 Sherman area, which means that there are most likely kids in that neighborhood that want a STEAM or STEM education that have to travel outside of the neighborhood to get it. So the combination of that focus, the lack of, you know, I think I did a search on, if you go on Enroll Indy and you search and you click the STEM filter, so the IMSA is like the 53rd suggestion, right? That means that there are schools that are putting STEAM or STEM in their filtering, which I'm not sure is vetted by anybody, you know, that just to, I mean, why not check all the boxes, right? Just so you pop up in more searches. And it's like the Google strategy, right? So that was a big factor for us. The other thing is that they actually added a transportation line item, which is critical because it allows them to pull kids from outside of the neighborhood as well. So as far as it, like looking at a saturation in an area, in a neighborhood, adding transportation somewhat mitigates concerns about enrollment if you don't have transportation and therefore relying on pulling kids, you know, within a 1 mile radius or whatever. So those really were the reasons that we sort of decided that we're going to support this recommendation. The building itself is in really good shape. It was a school before. It is not a situation where they're going to have to enter into an expensive lease and then spend $2 million to renovate the building. They have an LOI with BMO Bank, who I guess is and they can talk about this in more detail, that puts them at a reasonable percentage of total expenses for facility costs. So they've sort of ticked all the boxes. Now, of course, they still have to get through our prior actions. And that would include, you know, turning that LOI into an actual lease, you know, entering into a transportation contract. Like all of these things have to happen before we allow them to open. So approving this recommendation of allowing them to switch locations does not automatically mean that they open at this location. You know, implicit in that is that all of our conditions, the normal conditions in our prior action checklist, of which there are 30, I don't know, Bridget, there are lots of them. I'm sure Bridget could give us an actual number.
Yeah, there are 35.
35 conditions would have to be met before they can open. But this gives them the go ahead to start negotiating with BMO Bank about the lease and then to start, you know, making these other connections that they need to connect, these other contracts they need to sign in order to do what they say that they're going to do in their application. So with that, we recommend that the board approve the request, and we as a staff commit to sort of monitoring their progress as we have been doing over the last year, and making sure that if certain metrics aren't being met, as for example, if the lease doesn't turn out being what they say it was, if it's more expensive, or if there are other things that pop up, we will deal with those as they come, and could again prevent them from opening for failure to meet those requirements on the way. But that's true for every school. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Bullock or Ms. Mack or whoever is going to present, and let them talk a little bit about their request.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good afternoon to the staff and the Indiana Charter School Board. Indy STEAM Academy appreciates the opportunity to present a location material change to our charter application. I apologize, I'm a little bit hoarse this afternoon, but hope that you can hear me clearly, and I'll try to articulate clearly. We have Tanya Mack, our board president, Asia Coffey, who is our board director, and she is with Schmidt and Associates and has helped us along the way with the infrastructure of facilities that we've considered. We also have with us today Andrew Fullman, who has been by our side for the past 2 years, to be commended, who is our real estate broker of record. I apologize, Nicole is sharing my PowerPoint through her screen, so I cannot change the slides. So I'll just have to interrupt and say, next slide, please. Next slide, please. I wanted to just give the board an update on what we've done since we were authorized, because it has been about 9 months now or so. We received the CSP grant for $900,000. We are in what's considered year 0, the planning phase. So we have $300,000 accessible to us to help us with meeting those 35 conditions that Mr. Bentley described in our startup phase. We have $600,000 remaining for year 1 and year 2. We decided to put about $450,000 in year 1, and then the state has requested an extension. It has not been approved yet, so it may be that the $600,000 ends up being in year 1, but if we get the extension, we'll put about $150,000 in year 2. We're also pleased to announce that we received the STEM Acceleration Grant for $40,000. We realized that previously there was some concern about the expenses of the equipment and engineering modules. So the Acceleration Grant will help us to purchase that equipment and provide professional development for our teachers. Next slide, please. We also partnered with Eastern Star Church, and they gave us a donation of classroom furniture, library furniture, art supplies, robotics equipment, totaling children's books, totaling $8,758 worth of materials and furniture. We currently have these assets in a storage unit since we do not have a location. Because we couldn't open this school year, we decided to partner with the community and to find ways to support our early childhood students. So we partnered with Waterford Summer Reading Program, and we were able to recruit 144 parents in the Indianapolis area to help build the skills of our pre-K children to prepare them for kindergarten. So of the 144 parents that participated in this program, 66 of them were from the Northeast side. And all these parents had their pre-K children in the summer reading program. They got free computers, internet, to keep in their homes. And I have received a report from Waterford on how well the children did during this summer program that ended this past August. We also conducted a parent survey for our location preference. But the one thing I want to say about this survey, we conducted it back in March before we realized that we had COVID. It was like early, I think the week of March 8th, we conducted this survey before things shut down. And we didn't know that we were going to provide transportation. But our parents said, based on our ability to drive our children to school, that 75% of them preferred the Northeast compared to the West. And then we had 10% of our parents say, well, it doesn't matter. Either building you choose will bring our children. But now that we are planning to provide transportation, I think that will make a big difference in how we receive parents. Why do we want to change? I think Mr. Bentley clearly articulated that we couldn't find available property in 16 Tech due to the hospitals and IUPUI in the industries. We thought about, well, what can we do? We're looking for a facility that will be cost effective, turnkey. So as Mr. Bentley also suggested, the building that we have in mind is move-in ready. And we felt like that would be a better option than something that would require new construction or re-outfitting. This particular property has equipment already in place, and that it would be available to our use at no additional cost. And that would help to offset some of our EF&F expenses in our budget. This facility will accommodate our instructional model. It will help us if we get the LOI approved. And I'll go into that a little later. This facility will accommodate growth and expansion. We are looking at the possibility of providing a pre-K program and expanding our grade levels and possibly even providing a 9 through 12 program. And then again, our parents preferred the northeast side of town. When we looked at the demographics, there are about 51,000 people in this community, and there are almost 22,000 households. 69% are African American, 22% Caucasian, and 5% Hispanic. The most compelling demographics are the number of free and reduced lunch children in this community at 73%. And then we also looked at the percentage of adults aged 25 and older who do not have a high school diploma. And we felt that was very compelling to have the need for a high-performing school in the community. And then the unemployment rate, the average is 13%. But if you look at the next slide, we broke down our demographics by zip code. And there are 3 zip codes in this community, 226, 218, and 205. And as you can see there, just high unemployment rates, anywhere from almost 30 to 50% of the families are living below the 125% poverty index. And again, anywhere except for 205, 20 to 23% of our adults don't have high school diplomas. What can Indy STEAM do? We want to, first of all, increase the number of students who are proficient at grade 3. That's most important. And to prepare our students to take advanced coursework in high school. I don't know how many of our board members have been hearing a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk about equity, and that equity centers around students being able to take advanced coursework, especially that Algebra 1 component. If we can offer that at middle school, then they can take geometry at 9th grade and Algebra 2 and 10th. But just giving them an opportunity to take more advanced coursework in high school is a real equity issue right now in many of our schools. Increasing the graduation rate, and increasing the number.
Dr. Bull, can I interrupt? Can I real quick?
Yes,
yes. We should have, in the beginning, I should have told you that there's actual time limit.
Okay,
presentation.
I'm trying.
But
Okay.
what I think you should focus on is the facility, like the moving.
Okay.
You don't need to read.
So I think our board members get it as to why we want to go there, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we won't talk about. Hold on.
Yeah.
If you would go back, Nicole, right here, I do want our board to see these are the IPS schools. And when you look at the percentage of proficiency in each of those schools, except for Inquiry and 91 and William Bell, which have lower African American and lower poverty rates, that our children are performing well below 20% in reading, math, and science, which is why I think we need a school like Indy STEAM in the community. Let's move on, please, Nicole, if you would. Okay. And the other thing was whether or not there would be enough students to actually meet our enrollment targets. In the past, you've heard a lot about, well, you know, the enrollment is declining, but that is not true. If you take a look at the number of 0 to 4 and 5 to 9-year-old students at the pre-K and elementary have very strong populations. There has been a decline at middle school and high school. So we revised our enrollment projections. And so we believe that we can get 50 kindergartners, 25 first, 25 second, 23rd, and then as we move closer to that intermediate, we thought maybe 15 fourth graders and 15 fifth graders. Next slide, please. Why? How can we meet our targets? We want to expand our reach. So we will provide transportation so that we can send the bus to the west side, send the bus to the south side to get the parents who are interested in Indy STEAM. We have partnerships with our early childhood programs. And then the one thing that we found is that parents want us to keep the siblings together. So that K to 5 grade span is essential because some of our families have like 3 children. We want to be, right now, you can't find Indy STEAM Academy on Enroll Indy, which is unfortunate because parents use that to validate whether or not we are authentic. So we're looking forward to getting on Enroll Indy. Parents can look at our website to express their interest in enrolling. We will do some virtual roundups. We're already planning one for October with our early childhood programs. We'll use social media, brochures, and signs, and do all of the things that we need to do to recruit our students. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the facility. We want to go to 4020 Sherman Drive, and I must say to the board, we've been asking to go to 4020 since February. They thought we were going to open this year, BMO Bank, and then we got the delay, and we couldn't open. And at that time, they were very interested in us leasing the property. These are the lease terms that we provided. We, based on our budget, I don't know, year one should say 325. I'm not sure about this slide here. I'm not sure what happened there because that should be 325 in year one. 350, so we'll increase by $25,000 each year until we reach a $450,000 lease. And the reason why I put that asterisk there is because we're hoping that if we can get our LOI approved, that we can move in April 1st, and then the first 5 months would be abated, and maybe Andrew can talk a little bit more about that, where we would not actually pay to be in the building until September 1. We would hope at the end of year 5 that we would have the option to buy this building contingent upon renewal of authorization, that the tenant improvements and allowances are in the LOI, and then they have a property manager on site to provide building maintenance. Next slide, please. This building has several amenities, the things that most schools would need, and we just find this facility to be state-of-the-art and move-in ready. Next slide, please. And this is just a thumbnail of what the condition of the facility looks like. And Nicole, I think that's all. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share why we're interested in this particular property, and then I'm open to answering any questions that you may have about the status of where we are today.
course, you keep talking about a bank, and I heard the director speak for a bank. I'm not from Indianapolis, so what banks are you dealing with?
Mrs. Dr. Calvin, I can't say that the building is in foreclosure, but the bank, BMO Harris Bank, has the building. There are actually two buildings on this campus. One of them is an elementary school and the other is a middle school.
Okay.
So we're only interested in the elementary school. And so I'll just stop talking and give the board a chance to ask me questions, and then I can continue on.
That's the only question I had.
Okay.
Madam President.
Other questions?
I've got one or two, and Dr. Calvin just asked my first question. So BMO owns it, and they ended up with it when Tindley had to let it go, right? In some fashion. Is that right?
There were investors that let the building go.
Okay. But this is the one
Yeah.
Tindley had an elementary and closed or moved. Okay.
Yes. Yes, there was an elementary and a middle school on that property.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm familiar. I have not been inside the building. I have driven by it many times, and it looks like a beautiful building. So I have no doubt but what it's a nice building. It's big. My questions are about enrollment, because I don't have concerns on the other ones, I don't think. I know your strategy, it sounds like, is to very much work with the early childhood education group coming up and to use that as a path, which I know a lot of schools have done that. Of the early childhood centers that you've mentioned, do you have like an exclusive arrangement with them? Are you the only charter school working with them, or are there more than just you?
I am sure that other charter schools work with the early childhood programs, but
Okay.
I have remained in constant contact and partnership with cafes, Head Start, with Windsor Village, East and West. There's a STEM preschool for ages 4 and 5 at IUPUI. So I've been in contact with them as it relates to partnering with their parents to steer or to create a pipeline to Indy STEAM. If you remember back when we were getting authorization, many of those children, the kindergarten children, had come from those centers. We also have the Eastern Star Day Early Learning that we're partnering with. As a part of our CSP grant, we included those early childhood programs into our grant because we plan to share professional development and STEM activities with those early childhood programs so that we can build a better relationship with them. So I think Indy STEAM kind of has an advantage as it relates to the relationship with the early childhood programs due to the way we have included them into our CSP grant.
Okay. And then speaking of the CSP grant, so you have it this year, next year, and maybe the next year, depending on how you divide the money, but the total money is the same regardless, around $900,000. I know that, like Ace Prep and Vanguard, and maybe there's others that are also chartered by the ICSB. I know they had huge enrollment shortfalls at the beginning. And I think that federal CSP grant, very much helped them through that stage. I think ACE is still somewhat small. My question would be, and I know that you have addressed what your budget would be if you have enrollment shortfalls the first year. What would you do in year 3 if your enrollment is still low, but that grant has been ended? What comes in at that point to help you out if you don't have the amount of state per person support that you would plan on from enrollment? Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, first of all, when I think about, the most important thing is meeting our target year one, because those students will be retained. At least we're hoping to retain at least 95% of those students. And as we transition to the next grade level, I think the key, because I did, Mary Ann, I did an analysis of why the schools like Vanguard and ACE weren't thriving in enrollment. And what I found was that the slow grow is killing. It's killing enrollment. So that's why I changed my grade span. I opened it up. So now, you know, when I open, I've got K through 5, and I can continue to bring in children, not just specifically at K through 2, but a K through 5 span, which would allow me to recruit more students across the grade levels. So when you ask, well, what am I going to do in grade 3? What we would have to do, well, hopefully we won't have, if we have a shortfall, then we continue to add the 50 students at the early child, you know, from the early childhood to kindergarten, because that will be our lifeline. Is that 50, that target of 50 every year, bringing those new students in, and then it would be key for us to retain the ones that we already have every year. So I believe that when you say, well, what's going to help us in year 3, first of all, the lifeline that we've created with the early childhood students, our retention, and then if we are short, we will have to just reduce our staffing, and by then we will have instructional supplies and materials, so we would just reduce our costs as it relates to supplies and materials.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bullock. And I just remember already approved. We've already approved their application for charter. So today's, you know, the issue at hand today is whether or not we're okay with a location change. So let's try to keep on track here. I know we're coming close to the end of our hour. Are there questions about the facility change? Anyone? Okay.
I would like to make a recommendation. Am I out of order?
No.
Am I out of order? Can you hear me? I would like to just say that I would like to recommend that we adopt and support the recommendation coming from the administration as presented by that guy with the beard.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Janet.
And then I'll call the roll. Calvin.
Yes.
Dylan.
Yes.
Ruger.
No, but only because I'm familiar with the area and I know how schools have struggled with enrollment. But I really like this school.
Rummel.
Yes.
And Preston. Yes. So location change approved.
Well, congratulations, Dr. Bullock and Tanya. Looks like you got your work cut out for you, but now at least you have a location. We can get you on Enroll Indy, and you can get to work with the bank and all the other things you have to do. But Bridget and I will be in touch with you later about that.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
guys.
Thank
Good luck.
the board for their time today. Thank you so much for your time.
So before everyone leaves, well, I mean, Tanya and Yvonne, and you can leave, or you can stay. It's up to you. I just want to, the last thing I want to do is introduce our new employee. As you know, Jamie Brady was our initial director of schools. We created the position for her back in 2018, I think. She served in that role for maybe about a year, a little less than a year, before getting a better offer for more money, and left us, unfortunately, in November of 2019, right before the, the whatever hit the fan in March. So we at the time, we're trying to replace her. Once COVID hit, the state basically completely shut down all hiring, which is why it isn't until October of this year that we can finally introduce you to the new, now we're calling it Director of Schools, Miss Sherry Scott. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and then also talk about how she's pretty much hit the ground running and is already doing some pretty cool stuff with our schools. So, Sherry.
Hi, everybody. James is so sweet. I must say, I'm grateful and excited to be amongst all of you. And I have to shout out actually Leslie. My husband was walking past. He's like, I know her. But I definitely am grateful. As James said, like it's been really exciting. I've been in building so far. I talked to Todd Bullock on the phone. And I've also started a group chat with a couple of the leaders. So I'm just excited to continue to do the work so that way we can make sure that we have the right leaders in front of our students to make sure we're growing our communities. And it is truly an honor. So I'm excited to actually meet the board. And I say I work with a dynamic team of amazing professionals. So I look forward that whenever life gets back to normal, that we all meet face to face. But I'm truly excited and happy to be a part of the team.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your background?
Sure. I am from Augusta, Georgia, Southern girl. I've been in education for 12 years. I served as a fifth grade teacher in Albany, Georgia, also here in Pike Township. And then I transitioned to founding assistant principal at Global Prep Academy for 4 years. And my heart, like I said, beats for education, beats for urban education, beats for all students and families. And so I'm just excited to always be able to coach and support teachers, leaders. And so this really is just exciting for me because it speaks to the things that I enjoy and bringing the love back to classrooms and making sure that educators do what they're supposed to do to meet the needs for our kids. So you name it, I've done it in education. It's fun. Teaching is my thing.
And just as a reminder, the purpose of her position is purely technical support. She is completely walled off from our monitoring and accountability activities because it's important that she be able to build trust with school leaders so that they bring problems to her. I mean, that was the whole point of creating the role in the first place, is giving them a safe space to ask questions and not feel like they're being, judged for asking those questions. And, we found with even through Jamie that we saw a lot less issues. Like, I say that her job is to address matters before they become issues, which then become problems, right? If we can get them at the matter stage, then it never gets, it's like, if I never have to hear about it, then she's doing her job, right? Because we want to help school leaders with that technical support and all that. And she has been on the job for what, 3 weeks now, maybe? Yeah. And that she's already got a group of school leaders that are sharing ideas and meeting and talking. It's just amazing that she's hit the ground running in this environment.
Thank you,
we're all still meeting by Zoom. So she's been great so far, and we have really high hopes for her to help us keep our schools doing what they're supposed to do.
That's right. Which
is, providing a quality education to the kids. So.
I have to heart you, James. Thank you for the love. Thank you so much.
That's how this staff rolls.
That means everything to me. It does.
So anyway, that's all. I just wanted to make sure you guys met her. We also have an intern, but she's just working on a project basis, unpaid intern, sorry, who's a Butler student who is just doing one-off projects for us. She could not make the meeting today, but she's an intern. So anyway.
Great. Well, welcome. Excited to have those shoes filled. Anything else before we head adjournment today? I know we'll be hearing from you all soon about a December meeting, so we'll be on the lookout for probably a poll from Nicole about December meeting dates. Anything else from anyone?
Just as an update, a reminder, we have 4 renewal applications and 1 new application. So they're
Great.
already they're being evaluated as we speak.
All right. In that case, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Calvin, so move.
Dylan, second.
All right. So be it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Mary, how you keep driving now? Are you driving?
What's that?
Are you driving?
Me? Oh, not while I'm in meetings. I go to my favorite park by my house sometimes for meetings. So I'm at the Art Center in Broadrickville. I am parked. Trust me.
I love that place.
Thank you. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All.
Who is your husband?
Sorry?
Maurice Scott. Maurice.